My name is Bethany Werfel, and the title of my speech is Romance Around the Globe. The purpose of this speech is to inform you about some of the cultural diversities of romance in different parts of the world. What do you think rotten eggs, a sperm whale tooth, and a cooking pot could all have in common? Would you believe me if I said they all have to do with romance in different parts of the world? Before I really dive into romance, I'd like to take a moment to speak on my personal credibility. I'm credible to speak on this topic because I was actually raised in Papua New Guinea, but I was raised by American parents and therefore mostly American values and culture. However, American culture and Papua New Guinea culture are quite different. So from a young age, I started to see some of the beauty of cultural diversity and how extreme it can be. So back to romance. Romance varies depending on where in the globe you are. In the US, we have the Hallmark picture of happily ever after. In Papua New Guinea, though, a man may choose a woman based on the size of her cooking pot. And then in other countries like Scotland or Fiji, couples have to do some very interesting things before marriage. Let's start this romantic journey right here in the US. Hallmark and other industries have created a warm, soft feeling when it comes to love, the happily ever after dream that many of us think about. According to the professionals, it really isn't that unusual that Americans have fallen in love with Hallmark love. According to Pamela Rutledge, a behavioral scientist, Hallmark movies still allow us to experience the emotions associated with social validation, the yearning for connection, compassion, and empathy. So if you're longing for these things and you're seeing them played out in these videos, it makes sense that you would start looking for them in reality. The Hallmark romance picture is two strangers meeting, having an instant connection, love at first sight, some sort of tragedy that they overcome together, and you got it, they lived happily ever after. In strong contrast to this picture of romance, let's travel to the other side of the globe, to the South Pacific. In an isolated village in Papua New Guinea, several men were asked what they would look for in a potential wife. After much discussion, they came back with the answer they would look for a woman with a large cooking pot. Jeff DeJournas, an American Bible translator living in that village, was having this conversation with these men. He was really surprised by their answer, and he said, "Why a large cooking pot?" They came back with three very strong reasons. One, a woman with a large cooking pot, well, cooking pots are expensive, so she clearly has some money. A woman with a large cooking pot is wealthy. Secondly, a woman with a large cooking pot, well, she'd have to have a lot of vegetables to put in that pot, and to have a lot of vegetables, she'd have to have a large garden, and to have a large garden, she'd have to be a hard worker. So a woman with a large cooking pot is a hard worker. Finally, a woman with a large cooking pot, she's clearly making food for more than just herself. She's clearly feeding others. So a woman with a large cooking pot is a generous woman. They came up with some fantastic reasoning behind a large cooking pot. So I've discussed two very diverse views of romance on opposite sides of the globe. Now let's look at a couple in between. According to Stephen Brocklehurst, writer for BBC Scotland, in rural Scotland, couples are pelted with rotten eggs, fish, and molasses in a process called blackening in preparation for marriage. While some say the purpose of this is to bring the community together, others say that it's humiliating, which is good preparation for marriage. Meanwhile, in Fiji, Serena Solomon, a writer for the New York Times, shared a young man's true love is communicated with the tooth of a sperm whale. In Fiji, the word for sperm whale tooth is tabua, which literally translated means I love you from the inside. And since a sperm whale tooth can cost hundreds or even thousands of dollars, that truly is true love in Fiji. As you can see, in conclusion, romance is different depending on where you are on the globe, and it's greatly diversified. According to Dr. Viktor Kurandashev's article, A Cultural Perspective on Romance, published by the International Association for Cross-Cultural Psychology, while love is a universal emotion, Culture has been found to have an impact on people's conceptions of love and the way they think, feel, and behave in romantic relationships. Finding true love may look different for every person depending on where they grow up. I, for one, have decided to go out and buy a larger cooking pot. Clearly, this one isn't big enough. Thank you.